Okay, hello grade 8s, welcome to video 3. So in the last video we had a look at how to convert 2D area between different units. So we got given shapes that had measurements that were given in centimeters. So say for example you had a square that had sides of 50 by 50 centimeters. It's quite easy to work out the area of that shape in centimeters. You just go 50 by 50 and that'll give us 2,500 centimeters. If you wanted to convert that answer into square meters or square millimeters, you have to do your conversion twice. So ordinarily, to convert from centimeters to meters, you would just, to convert from centimeters to meters, because you're going from a small unit to a big unit, you would divide. But because we're working in 2 dimensions, remember, surface area is in 2 dimensions. You've got 2 sides that you're multiplying together, so you have to convert twice. So you wouldn't just divide by 100 once, you'd actually divide by 100 and then divide by 100 again. So we can say that you're going to divide by 100 squared. If you wanted to convert from centimeters to millimeters, if you asked a grade 7 to convert centimeters to millimeters, they'd say, oh, it's easy going from a big unit to a small unit, you just have to multiply by 10. Times by 10, and they'd say that's quite easy. But because you're working in 2 dimensions, you're multiplying 2 sides together, you have to do your conversion 2 times. So you're going to multiply by 10 squared, or times 10 times 10. Okay. If you were to convert centimeters squared to millimeters squared, don't just take your answer of 2,500 and times it by 10, because you're not going to get the correct answer of 250,000. You would just get 25,000. So that 0 wouldn't be there if you only converted once. If you converted from centimeters squared to millimeters squared and you just divided by 100, you would get an answer of 25. And obviously 25 is not the same as the correct answer that you should get of 0,25. Okay. I asked you to fill in the first and the last column. So in other words, we did the calculation in centimeters squared. I asked you to convert the answer in centimeters squared to meters squared and to millimeters squared for your rectangle and for your triangle. So let's start with the rectangle. To convert 50 square centimeters into meters squared, we need to convert twice. You need to divide by 100 2 times. I recommend that you do this first. So what I mean by that is we're going to still write down your formula. You get a mark for your formula. Area of a rectangle is length times breadth. The shape that we had a length of 5 centimeters. To convert 5 centimeters to meters, you have to divide by 100. And our breadth was 10 centimeters. And 10 centimeters converted to meters, you'd have to divide by 100. 5 divided by 100 is 0,05 meters, and 10 divided by 100 is 0,1 meters, and 0,05 times 0,1 should have given you an answer of 0,005. And because you had a meter multiplied by a meter, we're going to have an answer of meters squared. If you answered that it was 5 times 10 to the minus 3, that's perfect as well. 5, remember 2 decimal places always. 5 times 10 to the minus 3 meters squared, that's fine as well. If you just wrote 0,005 meters squared, that's perfect. Let's have a look at converting centimeters to meters, converting centimeters to millimeters squared. Again, formula, area equals to length times breadth. Our length was 10 centimeters and 5 centimeters. To convert from centimeters to millimeters, we have to multiply by 10. So we're going to go 5 times 10 millimeters. And then you're going to go 10 times 10 to convert your centimeters to millimeters. 5 times 10 is 50. And 10 times 10 is 100 millimeters. And 50 times 100 is 5,000 millimeters squared. If your calculator was in scientific notation mode and you wanted to write your answer in scientific notation mode, that's fine. You would have got that your area is 5 times 10 to the power of 3. Two decimals, so 5,00 times 10 to the power of 3. And our units will still be millimeters squared. So 50 square centimeters is actually 5,000 millimeters squared. Remember, normally converting from centimeters to millimeters, you would multiply by 10. But because we're working in 2 dimensions, you have to multiply by 10 twice. So in other words, you're going to go times by 10 squared, or times 100 in the end. Let's do the last one for the triangle. So before we start, write down your formula. Area of a triangle is half base times the perpendicular height. The base was 14 centimeters. And 14 centimeters to convert to meters, converting centimeters to meters, you divide by 100 to get meters. And then for our perpendicular height, we had 4.5 centimeters. Divide by 100, because you're going from a small unit to a big unit, you need fewer of them. Divide by 100 to get an answer of meters. So we've got a half, or 0,5, times by 14 over 100, which will give us 0,14 meters, times by 4,5 divided by 100, which is 0,045 meters. And when you multiply all of that, you should come up with that your area is 0,00315 meters squared. If you wrote your answer in scientific notation, that's fine as well. You would have got 3,15 times 10 to the power of minus 3 meters squared. Again, notice how you can't just take your answer in centimeters and multiply it by, and divide it by 10 or 100 to get meters squared. You actually have to divide by 100 and divide by 100 again, or just divide by 100 squared. Divide by 100 twice, 2 times. And the last part that we need to do is for the triangle, converting centimeters squared into millimeters squared. So we'll start with the formula. Area is length times breadth, but because we've got a triangle, it must be half length times breadth. Half length times breadth. Our length was 14 centimeters. So you can have a half times 14. Converting 14 centimeters to millimeters, you times by 10 to get millimeters. And the perpendicular height was 4.5 centimeters. 4.5 centimeters times by 10 to get millimeters. A half is 0,5. 14 times 10 is 140. And 4.5 times 10 is 45. That's going to give us 3,150 square millimeters. Millimeters squared. If you wrote your answer in scientific notation, we would have got 3,15 times 10 to the power of 3 millimeters squared. Again, remember I said if I asked you to tell a grade 7 to convert millimeters to centimeters, if you're going from a small millimeter to a bigger centimeter, you would have to divide, and millimeters to centimeters you divide by 10. And if I said to you, is 3,150 divided by 10 equal to 31,5, I should hope you tell me not. It'll just be equal to 315. And if you wanted to do it properly, so you go 3150, you divide by 10 2 times, or divide by 10 squared. I'm sorry that this board keeps on jumping around, guys. Divide by 10 2 times, or divided by 10 squared. If you're going the other way, so from centimeters to millimeters, if you're going that way, then you'd have to multiply by 10 squared. If you were going from millimeters squared over here to centimeters, then you would be dividing by 10 squared. Alright, so I hope you're all able to convert from various units in 2 dimensions. Because you're working in 2 dimensions, you have to do your conversion 3 times. So if you have to convert when you're dealing with volume, which is in 3 dimensions, you have to convert 3 times. Please note, guys, there is a definition of volume. Volume is the amount of space that an object occupies or takes up in 3 dimensions. You have to know definitions. Okay, so please learn that definition. So the formula for volume of a cube would just be length times breadth times height. Okay, and if I gave you a shape that was 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters, you would just go 5 times 5 times 5. And obviously 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. And if you had centimeters times centimeters times centimeters, just like in maths, if you had x times x times x, you would get x to the power of 3, or x cubed. So 5 centimeters times 5 centimeters times 5 centimeters will give us centimeters cubed. 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters gives us 5 centimeters, 125 centimeters cubed. Okay, if you wanted to convert that value to meters, so from centimeters to meters, you would have to convert 3 times. So this represents our 5 centimeters, 5 centimeters, 5 centimeters, but you need to do your conversion before you do your volume calculation. So 5 centimeters converted to meters, you would divide by 100. And you do that for each of your sides. So 5 divided by 100 and 5 divided by 100. So what that actually means is that then the length of each side is 0,05 meters. 0,05 meters, 0,05 meters. And 0,05 times 0,05 times 0,05 will give us 0,000125. If you did that in scientific notation, it would be 1,25 times by 10 to the minus 4. 1,25 times 10 to the power of minus 4 meters cubed. So this is going to be meters, 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 0,05 meters, 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 and a meter times a meter times a meter is a cubic meter. So see how you've had to convert 3 times? Okay. If you wanted to do the area of a rectangular prism, again the formula is length times breadth times height. So if we had 3, 4 and 12 centimeters, you'd multiply 3 by 4 by 12, and that would give you 144 centimeters cubed. So we've got it 4 centimeters by 3 centimeters by 12 centimeters. That gives us 144 centimeter cubed. If I asked you to convert that value to meters, you have to convert 3 times before you do your calculation. So to convert 4 centimeters to meters, you're going to go 4 divided by 100. The next side was 3 centimeters, so you would take 3, divide that by 100. And the last side was 12, take that and divide it by 100. 4 divided by 100, 0,04. You've converted centimeters into meters. The 3 divided by 100 is now 0,03 meters, and the 12 divided by 100 is 0,12 meters. So that 3 centimeters is the same as 0,03 meters. The 4 centimeters is the same as 0,04 meters, and the 12 centimeters is the same as 0,12 meters. And if you multiply 0,12 by 0,04, and 0,03, you're going to get that it's 0,000144 meters cubed, because you've multiplied a meter by a meter by a meter to give us cubic meters. Okay. For the triangular prism, very similar. 5 centimeters, 5 divided by 100 will be 0,05 meters. 8 centimeters is the same as 0,08 meters, and 10 centimeters is the same as 0,10 meters. So if you take these three values and multiply them, remember, don't forget to divide by 2, because the formula for the area of a triangle is half base times height. Please make a little note. You have just seen there's a mistake in your book. It must be, that's just the formula for area, but if you want to get volume, then you have to take area times the perpendicular height, or the length of your prism. Okay, so our prism's length is 10 centimeters. So what I'm going to put in a yellow square, that's just for area. To get volume, you need to also multiply it by the length of your prism. Okay, so that's just for area. Don't forget, you still need to multiply it by the length. This divide by 2 comes from the half. And when you do that on your calculator, don't forget to put your brackets. Bracket 0,08 times 0,05 times 0,10, close bracket. And after that, then you can divide by 2, and your answer will be 0,000200 cubic meters. Why meters? We've got 0,08 meters times 0,05 meters times 0,10 meters. And a meter times a meter times a meter is going to give you a cubic meter. So I would like you to try this extra practice. I want you to convert those values that we got in centimeters to meters. I'll do the cube with you, and you can do the rectangular prism and the triangular prism on your own. So we had an answer in centimeters. We need to convert that to millimeters. So the length of the shape, the sides were 5 by 5 by 5. To convert millimeters to centimeters, area would equal to, sorry, we're not doing area, guys, we're doing volume, 3 dimensions. Volume is equal to length times breadth times height for the cube. We had 5 centimeters. We need to convert that to millimeters. So 5 times 10 would give us our answer in millimeters. That's for the length. Same for the breadth. 5 centimeters times by 10 will give us an answer of 50 millimeters. Five times 10 is 50, and 50 times 50 times 50 will give us 125,000 millimeters cubed, because it's 50 millimeters times 50 millimeters times 50 millimeters. That'll give us 125,000 millimeters cubed. $125,000 millimeters cubed. If you were working in scientific notation, you would have got that the volume would have been 1,25 times 10 to the 5 millimeters cubed, and that's perfect as well. So before the next lesson, I want you to do the rectangular prism and the triangular prism. So you're going to do the rectangular prism and the triangular prism for your next lesson. Okay, so there's a little exercise here. We've got 1A, 1B, 1C, and then 2A and 2B. I'm going to do part of it with you, and you're going to do the rest on your own. So calculate the volume of the following objects. So we've got a rectangular prism. Its sides are 50 centimeters by 70 centimeters by 100. You just have to work out what the area will be in centimeters cubed. So formula for the area of a rectangular prism. Sorry guys, not area. I keep saying area, it's volume. The volume of a rectangular prism is length times breadth times height. Our length is 50. The substitution step is where you actually substitute the numbers into your formula. You have to always write a formula, then you have to write your substitution step, and then your final answer. If you just go straight to the final answer, you will lose marks. So 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters will give us sorry, grade 8s, I'm really sorry. Only the one side is 50. It's not a cubic prism, it's a rectangular prism. So we're going to have 50 by 70 by 100. So 50 centimeters by 70 centimeters by 100 centimeters. And you can calculate that. You should get an answer of 350,000 centimeters cubed. Or if you were working in scientific notation, your volume should have been 3,50 times 10 to the power of 5 centimeters cubed. The next question asks us to write that same value but in millimeters cubed, and the question after that in meters cubed. I'm going to do millimeters cubed and you're going to do the rest on your own. So formula for volume equals to length times breadth times height. It's the same shape, but we need to convert the 50, the 70 and the 100. Those values are in centimeters. We need to convert that into millimeters. So volume's equal to, the first side is 100. To convert 100 centimeters to millimeters, you need to multiply by 10. So 100 times 10 is going to be 1,000 millimeters. Then the next side, the base, is going to be 70 centimeters. 70 centimeters times 10 will give you an answer in millimeters. And then the last side is 50 centimeters. 50 times by 100 will give you an answer in millimeters. So these are all millimeter values. Millimeters, millimeters, millimeters. You don't have to write those millimeter values in your substitution, but you do have to show 100 times 10, 70 times 10, and 50 times 10. So the 70 centimeters is the same as 700 millimeters if you times by 10. The 50 millimeters is the same as 500 millimeters. 50 centimeters is the same as 500 millimeters if you times that by 10. Okay, so what have we got? We've got 100. Sorry guys, we don't have 100, we've got 1,000 times by 700 times by 500, and that gives us an answer of, sure, it's a really big value, 3,5 times 10 to the 9 if you're working in scientific notation. V equals to 3,5. Let's work with 2 decimal places, so 3,50 times 10 to the power of 9. And our unit's going to be millimeters cubed, because you've got a millimeter times a millimeter times a millimeter. Okay, if you weren't working in scientific notation, your answer would be that. I'd prefer to work in scientific notation for the really big numbers. Okay, so before you play your last video or the video for your next lesson, I want you to do 1C, where you have to take those same values, the same box, but you're going to convert it to meters cubed. And 2A is a cube with sides of 0,7 meters. 0,7 meters by 0,7 meters by 0,7 meters. You need to work out its volume in cubic meters, so you don't need to do any conversions there. But the same cube the exact same cube, you need to work out what its volume would be, but not in meters, but in centimeters cubed. Okay, we will go through that in the next lesson. Thanks, grade 8s.